Hi everybody, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do some georeferencing. Now I'm going to add an extra tutorial on this and show how you can use Landsat 8 data to do this exercise. So if you're just looking on how to do the georeferencing, you're going to have to skip ahead a little bit to find that, because I thought it would be most useful to just do the two in one video to save on some time. All right, so Landsat is a satellite that is operated by the United States, which takes a variety of information, and there's several sensors that have been up for quite an amount of time, and I'm not going to go into that right now because honestly I don't even know the full spectrum of what's available. But I do know that there is an abundance, and there are several sensors, all of which give good information. Some of it's very historical and some of it's very new. So something to play around with, lots of good stuff. But we're going to just go ahead and use the Landsat look viewer here to download the data, and we'll use ArcMap to tie the data to the Earth. So I haven't actually done this all the way through, so bear with me as I go through this process. You'll see I'll struggle with a few things. Okay, so the first thing is to get yourself to the right website. There should be a link on Canvas on where to go. And then we're going to go ahead and hit the Start Landsat Look Viewer. Okay, and I'm going to just uncheck the Landsat 7 thematic mapper and just go with the Landsat 8, because the enhanced thematic mappers seem to have some rows that are a little bit funky where they were missing data, or the way it's mosaicked. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it wasn't coming in quite how I wanted, and I wanted to keep this a little bit simple. So I'm going to pick an area that I'm familiar with, and I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in down here on Idaho. I'm going to keep zooming in till I can get down on a section that I want to work with, something that I can identify something quite safely. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pick the Twin Falls area right here. And the data for Landsat 8 is limited to 2013 and present. That's just fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit Show Images, which is going to actually bring up the Landsat 8 image on here. Okay, so here's our Landsat 8. We can mess with some enhancement here. There's a percent clip and there's a standard deviation. You can look into what those actually do. I'm just going to go with none on this. And if I take this visibility down, I can see the previous image show up on there. So you can see that these were images taken on the 19th of September of this year. So these are relatively recent, and that is the big advantage of being able to georeference your own images, because you may be able to get more up-to-date images. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Export Display here, and we're going to get a big swath of information here. Now I'm going to show you can do this. I don't want you to do this for this exercise. You can get just the JPEG with no spatial reference, or if I go all the way down to the GeoTIFF, I can get it spatially referenced. It's good to compare how well I can do. For this exercise, I do not want you to use the GeoTIFF. I want you to use the JPEG. And then what you're going to do is hit the export, and you're going to wait a minute for that to compile the data. And once it's done compiling the data, there will be a link. You might have to use the scroll bar here, but you're going to have to click on this link right here to view the exported image. That's going to open into a new window. Okay, and voila, there's my image. And then what you're going to want to do, at least in Chrome, is right-click, save the image as, and I'm going to call this Twin Falls, just to keep it simple. Now I've downloaded the data. I'm kind of done with that. So now I'm going to bring in my ArcMap just with a blank document. And I'm going to need some sort of reference when I'm georeferencing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit File, Add Data, Add Base Map, and I'm going to load just the standard imagery on here, though you could use any imagery as a reference, even one of your own making. Okay, I'm going to get myself down to Twin Falls. Okay, and roughly to the extent that we were at before. That's pretty close, maybe not perfect, but that's pretty close. We probably were a little bit closer than that, though that's probably near the extent of what we had. Now what I want to do is go to my customize toolbars and make sure that the georeferencing toolbar is checked. Now, I already have mine open on here. There it is. I'm going to bring it out so you can see it. And then what I want to do is go in my catalog, and I'm going to refresh this here, and here's my Twin Falls JPEG. So I want to make sure I'm in the same folder I downloaded the image to. So when I go save as, I need to make sure it might be going to my downloads, or if I've predefined some other folder, that's where it's going to go. Now I want to bring this in from the catalog, so you're going to have to drag that over. Make sure you don't end up below the base map, but above the base map. And then it's going to say you're missing spatial reference. That's because we're going to build the spatial reference. You're going to go ahead and hit OK. And you can see it populates Twin Falls JPEG into the georeferencing toolbar. You notice I can't see anything. Nothing's come up because ArcMap doesn't want to guess where you're going to put it. So the first thing I want to do is just go ahead and have it fit to display. Okay, there we go. We didn't actually do too bad. You can see here's the river up here at the top. We're pretty dang close. Here's the high line and the low line canals. Wow, that was pretty lucky how that turned out. But I have several operations on here that I can do. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that it's rotated in the same direction. If I have things flipped, I'm going to want to rotate it. The other things I can do is scale and shift. I'm going to go ahead and show you how both these work. Shift is just moving it. I get the hand up. I can now move it left and right. And you notice it's really annoying. I can't see anything underneath here. So it's handy to go ahead and turn on transparency. So I should be able to do that here just by right-clicking on Twin Falls, going into the properties, going to the display, and then go ahead and cranking up my transparency to something like, I don't know, let's see what 50% does. I still can't see a whole lot of definition underneath, so I'm going to crank it up to about 60%, and I can see some landmarks and things like that, so I'm okay with that. It's not great. I could crank it down maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to stick with that for now. Okay, so ideally I want to get things shifted about roughly where it needs to be, and I'm looking at a few markers. And the other thing I can do is scale. So right here in the same bar, I can shift the size to make it bigger or make it smaller. And I want to get it kind of close. I'm looking at a reference right here. There's this kind of triangular portion of the Snake River. I'm trying to match that roughly to the same size. And that's pretty good. And then I'm going to go ahead and shift myself over. So changing this to shift. And I'm going to push that triangle to roughly where it needs to be. And you can see it takes a few iterations to get that just right. That's not too bad. It's not great, but it gets me roughly where I need things to be. It does not need to be exact. And remember, things are going to change spatially from time to time. Okay, so this is kind of gets me close. It gets me in the general area. And then what I want to do is tie in some reference points. So the tool here is to add control points. Now the key thing here is I want to select control points from the source, the ungeoreferenced. That's going to be, in my case, the Twin Falls JPEG, to the reference layer. So I'm going to tie one point to the other. And there's some obvious things I can do here to make this easier. Okay, and I'm looking for landmarks, and I want enough that I can tie this thing to the earth without much problems. I want some good spatial difference between where I'm doing these. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what I want to do here, make sure I'm looking at the correct one. I can see there's a little bit of a notch in the low line here that's going to line up very nicely here. So this is my unreferenced. So I'm going to go ahead, I can actually zoom in because I want to get this as tight as I can. So get down to the area where I'm working. Don't be afraid to do that. And I'm going to crank my transparency to 0 because I know what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at that particular point. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the layer, and I'm going to bring it right back up here where I want it, turn it back on. You see now I've moved that exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to come back to my thing, and you see things are already starting to line up as I want it to be. Up here is that nice kind of triangular spot. There's probably a name for it, but I don't know what it is. Okay. So I want the tip of this here. I'm going to go ahead and click on my control point. Click on the top of this. Go ahead and turn off my layer here. And I'm going to bring it down here to where I want it. Turn it back on, and you can see now I've moved it. So with 2 points, I have pretty good control. You can see my canals are lining up. Rock Creek is lining up. I'm off a little bit over here. My river looks pretty good. The only thing I could maybe do is include 1 point on the east side, 1 point on the west side, but make sure you know what you're pointing at. So I'm going to do one over here on the east side. I see this canal right here stands out really well. Canals make very good because there's a lot of contrast between the two. And I'm going to go ahead and get this tip here. Turn that off. Ooh, it is really close. It's probably about there. And you can think in your head, there's a better way to do this. If I had a GPS, I could tie this in really, really well. I'm going to do one more, I think, over on this canal on the west side, though there's not going to be a whole lot of difference. Maybe I could do a road. The intersection of this road might actually be pretty good. So I'm going to come down in here. I can see the intersection. I'm going to actually zoom out so I can see things a little bit better. Boy, it's already pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click here in the center of this intersection. My unreferenced. Go to my reference. There's not a whole lot of difference. I'm going to turn that back on. I'm going to click back here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom to my previous extent. And wow, that ties up really nicely. So I'm pretty happy with how this image looks. So once I'm done, I'm going to go to my georeferencing toolbar, and I'm going to update the georeferencing. Now that thing is set. Now I'm ready to do kind of what I want with this is spatially defined. That's kind of the end of the georeferencing tutorial. Now this was a pretty complex example, though I think you'll find the bigger your image, the better your opportunity to find landmarks is. So keep that in mind as you're going throughout this, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.